but that was banned and it's nowhere to be found. So I have no idea what happened to it.
I was gonna
But
ask you because I read another guy's story on here a couple nights ago, and he said that the three-letter agency made him write down every single one of his social media accounts, every single password for those accounts, every single bank account. I mean, every he had to give
Bank
them
accounts.
everything.
That's usually how investigations work. Yeah.
I was
well,
wondering if they
so
asked you for that or if it just disappeared.
I chartered two buses and took 112 people with me. Um, I live in West Virginia, and on my bus, I actually had a member. He was just elected in that November to the House of Delegates here in West Virginia. He actually went into the Capitol and he was arrested like just a few days after we got back. Um, to my knowledge, to this day, he was the only one that went in that was on the bus. And he did have to serve 90 days in federal prison in Michigan. But that was like a year and a half after the fact because they kept going back and forth to court for, multiple hearings and whatever. Um, and then ultimately he was removed from his delegate position. But so what I was going to say is, so our bus, we traveled all night, and our bus arrived and dropped us off on 18th and Constitution Avenue around 6 o'clock in the morning. And I had like several maps of different events that was going on all over DC. There was events and parades and like rallies and all kinds of stuff all over the city. So I'd passed out all that literature. I personally had been to several Trump rallies, so I didn't really want to go listen to him speak again. We wanted to be at the rally that was at the Capitol. And so as
Was
we
it the
were
one on the
walking,
west? Was it the one on the west lawn with Alex Jones?
that one was, well, I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know which west. I always, when I talk to the three-letter agencies, I would say out front or back. So the one that's closest to the Supreme Court is where it all started. So whatever that, we called that the back. So I don't know what
Okay.
that is, but the one that where the president comes out for inauguration, that's what we called the front. So we there was hundreds, if not, I mean, thousands of us that gathered out back, and we got there very early, like I said, because we traveled all night. But we waited in line for probably 45 minutes to get off of our bus because there were so many chartered buses. It was, I mean, it was wild. And then the bus company actually had to park at the Commanders Stadium. That's where they allowed all the buses to be parked, and wait to pick us back up. But when they dropped us off at like 6 o'clock, and as they dropped us off, we had a fairly good walk to get up there. We saw two like 15 passenger vans like a church would have. I mean, they weren't obviously church buses, they were rentals, but it's about that size. And there were people they were changing their clothes and they were putting on like Trump gear, and they had like these billy clubs and stuff. And we were like, Trump 2020, we were like chanting and whatever. And they were flipping us off and they were saying, we're not you, and like all this. And I was like, what? That just did not make any sense to me. Then why were they having this, all this MAGA gear and all this stuff? That just didn't make any sense. And then they started cussing us. Long story short, so we get up to, behind the Capitol, and they had all of the like bike racks, is what we call it, like the fencing, all barricaded off. And there was people from, I mean, all over the United States set up, and they had like loudspeakers set up so you could hear President Trump's speech when he was talking at the Imperial at noon, so you could hear it like in, live. And people were playing music like the lady was saying, like God Bless USA. They were playing Lee Greenwood and like Toby Keith music, just a lot of patriotic stuff. And there was really nothing. I mean, a lot of the different Congress and Senate, different people were pulling up out back, but I mean, they had it so far back, like the back rails, you couldn't even get, I mean, I don't even know, probably like 100 yards to the back door. Well, Pence came in at 12:51 p.m. And there was several police officers out back, probably, I don't know, probably like 40 or whatever. And there were snipers all over the buildings. But when Pence came in at 12:51, all of the snipers came off of the top of the Capitol, and the police that were lined all the way down the front, they pretty much just went to the end where his motorcade was. And then we were listening to, to Trump's speech, and he did say, let's all march peacefully and patriotically. I mean, we could hear it, but you could start to hear more crowd. It was like this really, really like loud. I mean, you could just tell that people were gathering. It was just kept getting louder and louder. And then all of a sudden, all of the bike racks that were out back, well, I call them bike racks, it's the fencing. The police just were started at like the far end where Pence's motorcade was and went down to the other end. And they took every single one of those down. Like, I don't know, there was like 2 police officers, one at each end of each railing, how they kind of locked together. They took them all down. And when they took them down, people started walking to get up, the stairs to go in, because they're like, well, let's just get up. A lot of people just wanted to take pictures and, do whatever. But you could hear this massive amount of people. And I was like, what's going on? And you could hear this like, it wasn't like gunshots, but it was just like this loud noise. So me and 5 other people that I was friends with on the bus, we walked around front, and I was like, oh my God. I mean, it was just like as far as you could see down towards the Washington Monument was like a sea of red, white, and blue. I mean, it was literally like shoulder to shoulder. And so as we turned the corner and we got closer, I mean, that's where like the scaffolding was to get up to where like the stage for the inauguration, because everything was actually already set up for the inauguration that early. And so, I mean, it was like shoulder to shoulder. As we got closer, you could see the flashbangs and the smoke and like the tear gas. And I mean, people were just chanting like Trump 2020. And they were like, a lot of people were reciting the pledge. People were singing God Bless America. And then we got like those flashbangs like 3 different times. And there's so many people in the crowd that were just so generous. And they're like, here, they're like bend over and like rinsing each other's eyes out with water. I mean, because it happened to me. I wear glasses, but glasses wasn't going to stop whatever it was they were sending down. I have no idea.
Oh my gosh.
And some of those people that I saw changing their clothes that morning that flipped us off and said, we're not one of you, obviously, because we were Trump supporters, they were in the crowd and they hit people with their billy club. I saw it twice. And so that's some of the people that I was with, the 5 of us, or the 5 of the other people, they got scared. And I was like, I'm going up, because I just was like all caught up in like the excitement of it. Like I'd never had witnessed anything like that before. It was just, I mean, you had to be there to understand, like, because I'm ride or die Trump. I mean, some people may not be, and that's fine. I respect, everybody, but it's just, that was just part of the thrill and the excitement of that day. And so I thought, well, I'm going to get on the stairs, and I walked up to the top, farther past like where the stage is, where the president is. There's another level, and at the very top, and then that's where I was talking about in the comments where that flag was. If you look towards, like, the building has an indentation. It's so much bigger in person actually than what you would even imagine on TV. But if you look back in that indentation, there was scaffolding, and there were like 2 men on each end, and then here comes this massive flag. I don't know how big it was, but you could see it. It started at the bottom, and people were just touching it like all the way, helping it pull through the crowd, kind of like if you're working like an emergency line, passing sandbags. You know how like each person just does their part. So each person was like getting a hold of the flag and passing it to the next person so it wouldn't touch the ground. I don't know how big that flag was, but I mean, it was absolutely the largest flag that I've ever seen in my entire life. But anyways, those people on the scaffolding took that flag and they raised it to the top of the Capitol and hung it up. And so once they did that, I'm sure you guys have seen one of the videos. It's all over TikTok, and you see a gentleman, I think he might have on like some black or some camouflage, and he has like a red hat on, and he walks up to one of the officers and he said, why are you letting this happen? Why are you letting this happen? Like, why don't you stop this? For the people that were being mean. And that's where we were at. That's where that flag was. And then if you turn the corner just a little bit to the right, there was probably 10 or 12 officers, and they had opened up the doors while I was standing up there, And there was another guy that was on my bus. He's a retired colonel, and actually he is a defense contractor for somebody in the Pentagon. And we happened to stumble across each other, and I was like, let's go in. And he said, no. He said, don't. And I said, why not? I said, everybody else is. And he said, this is surreal. He said, I've been in the military for 35 years and I've never witnessed anything like this. He said, let's just stand here and watch. And they had Metro Police up there and the Capitol Police, and there's like 6 doors up there, and they opened the doors and they motioned with their arm and they were waving for people. They said, anybody that wants to come in, come through these doors. And I've got it all on video on my phone. They let anybody that wanted to come in go in. And that's people, and I haven't been able to talk or tell my story because I'm thinking,
Yeah.
you know, the FBI came to my house 3 times, which I was terrified. And thank God, I mean, this is a God thing. I don't know if any of you guys are believers, but this is a God thing, because my friend that actually, you know, he was arrested. And so I got an attorney who was a very good attorney. And I had my Zoom call with him because he's about 4 hours away from where I live. But that morning at 10 o'clock, this was on January 13th, I had my 1-hour consultation with him. And he said, if they show up at your house, tell them that you'll be more than happy to answer their questions, but you want to have your attorney present. And if they say 100 questions, 25 ways, say the exact same thing and do not let them in your house and do not turn over your device. So that's what I did. And then about 6 months later, they contacted me again. And then that was the end of it, I thought, because I did not go in. I did not go in. And if it wasn't for that retired colonel, I would have went in. But somehow in the crowd of all those hundreds of thousands of people, we found each other. And I mean, it was just a God thing, because
God bless.
it's like when you go to the doctor and you see this, you know, he's in a white coat. He went to school for 12 years. You respect him. You trust what he's telling you, that, you know, for whatever diagnosis you get. Well, when you see these police officers, they're opening the doors and they're like, come on in. If you want to come in, come in. Why would you not trust a police officer? Because, like, as a parent, you always tell your children, if you get lost, look for a police officer. They'll help you, you know, so I'm like, why? So these people were going, I mean, and I can't speak for everybody, but I mean, I can speak for what I witnessed. I mean, I'm sure there were people there that had bad intentions. I'm sure of that. But the people that I saw, I didn't witness any type of ill behavior. I mean, other than those 2 guys that I saw with the billy clubs, but those were the ones that flipped us off that morning. There's no way they were Trump supporters, because they would not scream and cuss at us and, you know, flip us off and whatever. But anyways, and then the 3rd time the FBI came to my house, it was like late 2023 or late 24. And they actually went to my dad's house first. And then they called me at work, and then they wanted to come to my house to verify what I had on that day, because they had pictures of me on the grounds of the Capitol and wanted to know if I had broke through any barriers. And I said, no, I did not. I said, the barriers were on the ground. They were already taken down. So there was nothing for me to break down because they were already taken down. And he asked, you know, who took them down or whatever. So we had this, like, you know, conversation with my attorney again. And I said, you know, is this done with now? Like, finally, can I, you know, are we over this? Because I thought it was over 2 years ago. You know, why 2.5 years later, why are we still talking about this? Because, you know, I didn't go in. And they wanted all the information: who I chartered the bus through, how much did I make people pay for the bus, like, give me everybody's name on the list. I didn't give them any information, none whatsoever. But he said that whenever it was late 2023 or early 24, that Congress had appropriated an extra $40 million to go after more people, because they still wanted to arrest as many people as they possibly could. He said, but we have your picture here. You were honest. You told us exactly what you had on. It matches the description perfectly. And we do not have any footage of you inside the building. I said, I didn't go in. That's why you don't have me on a camera inside, you know. But I mean, it was just sitting, like, for the past 3.5 years, 4 years, whatever, just gut wrenching, thinking, are they going to come to my work? Are they going to come back to my door? I mean, it's just ridiculous. But I would do it all over again. I would go 100 more times
Yikes.
because it was a moment in history that I will never forget.
Jesus Christ. You would go again?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
My friend that went would have gone again too, and she didn't get in trouble, but she
Holy
didn't
shit.
do anything wrong.
My parents would do the
If I
same
could
thing.
have,
They
I
would
would have
gone
gone.
back.
I
Wow.
was
My
going to
parents
tell
would
you
go
that
back and do it
guy
again.
that I read his story last night or night before, whichever night it was.
Fuck me.
He was arrested and he only had misdemeanor trespassing, and he never went in the Capitol. He never touched the Capitol. He just went on a part of the grass that they said he wasn't allowed to go on, and it was where the bike racks were taken down, and they were already down. And he said whenever he walked up to the area, the officers that were standing there and the bike racks were down, he asked them if they were allowed to go over there because there were people walking past him going over there, and he was like, "Are we allowed to go over there?" And he said the officers told him it was fine. Just like you said about the door, and they were opening the door and telling anyone that wanted to come in to come through that door. That's where Cash went in, and Cash said they were holding the door open, and whenever he walked past, he said, "Is it okay if we go in here?" And the officer looked at Cash and said, "Yeah, just don't touch anything."
Yeah, anything
Yeah,
to
Yeah.
prove.
should
I
we
mean,
bring
they were let,
SK?
I'm sorry. They were actually letting people in. They had opened extra doors out back. And when I say out back, that's the one that's like closest to the Supreme Court. They had started with just one set of doors, but then I think they opened up, I want to say like 4 different sets of doors because there were so many people that wanted in. So they had to keep opening more doors.
And James, before you go, the reason most people would do it again, and I would have been there myself, is anything to prove that we have people up on that hill that don't care about democracy. They don't, on both sides of the aisle, but they just don't care. They don't.
What are you trying to say? What are you talking about?
I'm saying that there are people in powers and in positions of power today that don't give a shit about democracy, and what we believe in, the Constitution, and all of it.
Yep, I agree with you there. This is what is so bonkers to me. Like, we could literally watch the live video from the moment that they leave Donald Trump talking to the crowd moving to the Capitol building. We can sit here and watch it. Listen.
No, the outer perimeter was breached before Donald Trump was even finished speaking.
Yeah, I understand that. And what I'm saying is we have video of the very first instances of any sort of violence. It's documented.
We also have
the contention.
But like she said, and Slotowski was in the comments a second ago saying that those vans that she was talking about, the church vans and the people that were changing clothes, she said that's the same people that Clay Higgins talks about.
For sure.
So now that people are able to speak and speak openly about it because they've been pardoned, you're going to hear a whole lot more corroborating stories because she saw the same thing that other people saw, which was people changing their clothes into MAGA gear right as they were like yelling and cussing and flipping off and, acting like they were going to assault Trump supporters.
Right.
Yeah, you can laugh,
those
James.
people and those
it's funny to
instances
me,
of violence that you
it's not
saw
funny.
were those Trump
It
supporters,
is.
or
It's not
were
funny,
they
James.
people that were just
So
dressed
let
as
me
Trump
get this
supporters?
straight.
No,
I want to
no.
make sure I'm
Hold
understanding.
on. It's not funny,
My
James.
parents said that AN group was all over the place. They had to have the Proud Boys walk them back to their hotel because it was so dangerous that night.
So
Because
where are those people? Because I understand what you're saying, and just give me a moment. I understand what you're saying as far as agency operatives, okay? Employees of said agency. But like I'm asking that you all please be specific. Like, are we talking about a mixture of civilian and government operatives? Are we talking about strictly government operatives? Are we talking about civilians who were paid and provided resources to infiltrate this action? Like, flesh out your theory.
Well, I'm hoping.
So we don't know exactly
think
who they
we
are,
know.
but what we do know for a fact is that there were at least 26 CHSs from the 3-letter agency
At
that starts
least.
with an F.
Right? Okay.
At least those are the ones that we know
Okay,
about
so-
from the
so-
report
so
that
tell me
was
this.
released. Hold on. James can laugh all he wants. It's literally from a congressional report from the three-letter agency that starts with an F. They finally had to come out and admit, yeah, well, we did kind of have 26 CHSs that were there, and then tried to explain away.
And it makes...
But only 3 of them went inside the Capitol.
And Gabe, I know you want to say something, but not just do we know that, but we also have on camera, at least one of them, maybe 2, trying to influence this to happen. And even the first person who breached, the very first person, one of those people who we have on camera goes up and whispers into that guy's ear. We don't know what he said, but that was the very first person who jumped across. The very first.
That's fine. That's fine.
Oh, is it fine?
But
That's
what
fine. It's fine. It's
no,
okay.
I'm trying to be charitable with you, sir.
All right. I'll give you that.
But I'm just asking now.
I have a question. If you're thinking about, I'm not in law enforcement. I don't know anything about law enforcement. I was never in the military. I don't know anything about the military. But just common sense and, being a CC, exercising my Second Amendment right, those type of things. There are certain types of things that you just know you would do in certain circumstances, or you always keep watching for certain things. Like you're just kind of on a different level of alert, right? So just from a basic normal human being standpoint, knowing nothing about police, knowing nothing about military or three-letter agency, anything, do you think that if you were going to be, there was going to be an event that was going to be taking place, do you think that the three-letter agencies would make sure that they had people embedded within the crowd so they could be able to get information so that they would know if something bad was happening?
100%.
For sure.
It would make all the sense in the world for them to embed.
Why did they tell us for so long there were none of those people? They weren't in there when they should have just said, "Listen, it's an event at the Capitol."
You know what? You're smart enough to know what an undercover operation is.
Right.
So you don't tell people about things you don't want them to know about.
So then you think
why wouldn't they want people to know?
Too far out of the realm that maybe some of these undercover things, maybe not the entire thing, maybe that wasn't the whole purpose, but maybe some of the people involved with the thing, maybe there were some people that might have done some things in order to get things going.
We're approaching rationality. We're approaching rationality now.
I mean, I don't know how it's not rational. The people that have been telling us we're irrational this whole time, we're being rational. We're
no.
It's out of the realm of possibility that some of these things could have happened when you're looked at and pointed at and said you're a conspiracy theorist. I'm like the opposite of a conspiracy theorist. I stick directly to the primary.
I know that, SK, and the detail with which you laid out that theory is I have never heard it. So
it's like RFK today.
Well, that's SK for you.
That was my conspiracy theory, and that just got proven true. It's like RFK Jr. today with all of his conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is we get the
stop and think about everything rationally. I try really hard just to think about everything rationally and logically. And like I said, I know nothing about, just like the thing that happened in Butler. I'm not going to sit here and say that the government was in on it and they planned it. None of that. I'm not going to say that. But from what I've seen and the evidence that's been released, I'm not in military and I'm not in the police department. I know nothing about that. But just speaking from common sense, if my house, if there's a situation like somebody flips the switch and all the power goes out and shit goes crazy, I mean, just thinking from that perspective, I would be watching this area and I would be watching that area and I would be watching this area.
Well, hold up.
Can I say one more thing before I leave?
Real quick. I am a conspiracy theorist, right? Mm-hmm. Very much so. I know a cover-up when I see one, put it that way, okay? And especially if you look at the motive, right? The motive for so. If you look at, like I said, that didn't benefit Trump. You know this. It didn't.
It did.
No, because they stopped the session.
Which was their point, approach.
No, it wasn't. Okay, hold on, pause.
Green Patriot did not benefit Republicans.
So
Pete Navarro talked about this.
James, pause. I don't think you've ever heard me talk about this either. So wait, okay? You've got to think about this rationally. Again, take the emotion or the left or the right out of it and think about this. Put anyone in Donald Trump's shoes. Put me in Donald Trump's shoes. Mm-hmm. So I've been, these things have happened. It's during a nationwide P-word, unprecedented times. Laws were changed across this country, in some cases unconstitutionally per their state's constitution. all of these things have happened and taken place, you know, based on having been in office and knowing that these agencies and these people have been working against you the entire time you've been in office. We have congressional reports proving it. That's why those 51 people got their security clearances revoked when you wrote that executive order.
Yeah.
We've got all of these things, so we know that there was a certain segment of our government, not elected, by the way, but a certain segment of our government that was actively working against everything Donald Trump was trying to do the entire time he was in office. So if you're coming from that perspective and you know everyone's against you and you know what they're capable of, you got to see the JFK files day one in office, and it must have been something so crazy you were like, yeah, we can't tell them that. You know what I mean? So you know that you're kind of in a position where I can't trust any of these people.
Okay.
I don't trust this. So that's where you're coming from, looking at all of this, right?
Okay.
So these things take place. There are legal objections in writing signed by a member of the Senate and a member of the House for at least 7 states. You can go back to that day and you can pull the CNN live feed update where it's in writing, and you know they update like every minute. Sometimes it's a minute, sometimes it's 4 minutes.
Yep.
They update. And in between those updates, they do like an analysis, and they'll say, well, you know, they haven't started the counting yet, but this is what we're expecting today, blah, 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 blah. And they talk about how many states were going to be objecting. You know, leading up to that day, all over the TV, they were talking about the EVs, you know, the things that they were counting that day. They talk about that. They talk about if these states object and these votes get tossed out, what would happen? What would happen in the event of a tie? Even, you know, they had constitutional lawyers on. They had Nancy Pelosi on the TV. We got to hear from everybody about all the different scenarios that could take place that day. Keep in mind, every time there's been a J6, when a Republican has won, there's always been Democrats on the floor objecting to votes without it being legal in writing and signed by a senator. They always stand up and do the political theater of, I'm objecting to this state's votes for blah, 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 blah reason. Well, the difference here is this time the Republicans had legal objections in writing signed by a senator and a member of the House. And I think if you look at it from that direction, it goes in alphabetical order. They got to Arizona, the objection was presented. Just like she said, as soon as Pence got there, what happened? They took down all of those people and moved them to a different area. That's kind of strange because they go in alphabetical order, and they got to Arizona and they were debating Arizona because once a legal objection is presented, you then have up to 2 hours. They break off into their separate chambers. The House goes to their chamber, the Senate goes to their chamber, and they can debate for up to 2 hours. And then they take a vote to see if they're going to accept those EVs or they're going to toss them out, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what was happening. They were debating Arizona for up to 2 hours whenever they busted into the floor and everything got interrupted. And then going forward, after they resumed way later that night, after somebody had been unalived right outside where they're doing all of this, everybody was scared. And everybody said, okay, well, we're not going to go. We're just going to go through with certifying. And that's what they said. When it came to the states that were going to object, they stood up and said, you know, we were going to object, but we're withdrawing our objection. We just want to go forward with counting the electoral votes. And then they went on to the next state. The only one that still continued to object was Pennsylvania. And then they objected. They didn't even debate it. They just took a vote and they certified those votes. I mean, there were a few that voted to toss them, obviously. I can't remember, maybe 90 something. I don't know. Out of the entirety of both.
Hey, SK, I'm going to go, but I'll come back and listen or come back up in a minute.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Can I respond to that, SK?
But hold on. Hold on. So the only person that stood to benefit from this process and these objections not going forward, we don't know what the outcome would have been. But that's the point. We don't know what the outcome would have been. Okay.
So this is bonkers. Okay. Like how you laid that out to me is absolutely bonkers because we have primary sources from Peter Navarro and from Eastman in their emails where they talk about this
Peter
scheme.
Navarro wasn't on any emails with Eastman. It was Eastman and Chesborough.
I didn't say that they
Peter
were in
Navarro-
emails together. Hold on. SK, please, you talk for 5 minutes. I can't even speak for 30 seconds.
Go
I
ahead.
said Peter Navarro, he wrote this out in his book. John Eastman, his emails were not to Peter Navarro, and that's not what I said. Okay, but in the Eastman emails and in Peter Navarro's very public statements on the Green Bay sweep is what he called it. The plan was to created to delay what would leave state legislators in 6 key battleground states with Republican-dominated legislators: Arizona, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Wisconsin, Nevada, to decertify the election with the intended outcome that Trump would have more certified electoral votes than Joe Biden.
Do you have a second
Trump
device?
supported.
Whoa.
Hold on. Do you have a
I'm
second
gonna stop you
device?
there, sir.
I can't even.
Long,
Jesus
long,
Christ!
hold on,
Hold on,
hold on.
everybody
This
stop.
isn't-
Everybody
no.
stop. Do you hold on. While he's on this subject, do you have a second device, James?
Yes.
Okay, can you Google for me
No.
2020?
Hold on, James, Pennsylvania
2020
has been
Long
blue
Duck, I have no interest in
for
talking right now.
years.
Project. Can you Google that for me real quick? And then
Wait,
I want
2020
you to pull
what?
it up. And then I want you to pull it up, and I want you to scroll down to War Game number 3. And
I
I
can't
also
hear
want
what
you
you
to
said.
take note of the date that was published.
What am I Googling?
Well, I can't. I'll say it again, and I'll just cross my fingers. But
Yep.
you're gonna have to Google transition,
Mm-hmm.
integrity,
Mm-hmm.
project,
Yep.
and then the year that thing took place.
Okay.
And I like to call it just the tip.
Okay.
'Cause, just the tip. And then when you pull that up,
Yep.
scroll down to War Game number 3.
Are we
SK
looking?
SK, you're legit. Just want to let you know that.
What were you gonna say, Long Duck Donger? I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to interrupt you guys. I just want him to pull that up and look at it because I know exactly where he's going with that argument, and he probably doesn't know this document exists.
No, Pennsylvania has been blue for years until last year. And the only reason it turned red is because the damn Amish. So no.
What are you talking
Thank you,
about?
Scott Pressler.
Yeah,
Hey,
that
don't-
guy.
don't
Give
worry about
that
it,
guy
James.
the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
So NPR reported on
Scott.
what you're talking about, SK.
In
Is
August, or July or August of
Yeah, it's dated July 30. The article is
Which
dated July
crazy
30.
Because if you go read number 3, it's exactly what they did.
Yeah, and go look into the interview that the
And
chief
it's
editor
crazy that
from
the
NPR
Democrats are
gave.
the ones that did War Game number 3. It was actually John Podesta.
Mhm.
Okay, but again, just let's follow your argument. So they, quote, air quote, they are capable of taking one in 16, or not 16 but 20. They took it, right?
Well, I'm not saying that. Hold
Somehow,
on.
some way, they coordinated to get the victory.
I think laws were changed unconstitutionally across the country. We didn't change the way we did the E word during Spanish flu.
Arizona.
We didn't change the way we did the E word during the Civil War. There was no reason to change the way we did E words in our states over a
So this argument has steadily been refined over the years, and this final version is not bad. I will give y'all that. You've cleaned it up quite a bit.
This has been my argument since the very first day I got on this app.
Well, I didn't. You weren't the first MAGA person I spoke to, so I've heard a lot of versions of this conspiracy. I've heard a lot
Conspiracy.
of
It's not
components.
conspiracy. I said we're going to have a discussion like logical human beings. We're going to look at this from a logical standpoint. Just
Yeah,
like
and that's what I'm saying, SK. That ain't what I get all the time. I get dead dictators putting
That's all
secret
right.
back
Not-
doors
not-
into machines.
Not everybody put the time and effort that SK's put in. Like nobody
is
on this app.
correct.
Nobody.
So, can I just say one thing, SK? Before I have to go here in a moment.
I'm sorry, Amelia. I didn't see. I suck at running my own life.
So this is what I'll say. This is what I'll say. And to me, this is a huge defining difference. Okay. if Joe Biden, let's say that I went there in 2020 and Joe Biden had lost that election, he held a rally just like Donald Trump did. And Joe Biden gave that same speech that Donald Trump did. And the same thing happened. I would not have participated one bit. Not one bit. And I damn
That's your choice.
And I damn sure wouldn't beat cops.
I wouldn't have been there, but you know what? Your First Amendment right says you not only have the right to free speech, but you have the right to petition your government.
You do, but you don't have the right to beat the shit out of police officers.
Yeah, the right to assembly. Yeah, no, come on.
Yeah, you do, but you don't have the right. You don't have the right to beat the shit out of police officers. That's the difference.
Well, let's not
Nobody's
generalize
arguing
that.
You won't find a single one of us argue that that's okay.
Right. The majority of the people that were there did not do that.
Hold on, no. I've sat here for 45 fucking minutes, James, listening to you yap forever on useless shit.
I've said maybe 5 minutes.
No. Shut the hell up.
Long. Please calm down. I know you're heated, but please just.
1,500 people were denied their due process.
No, they
their
weren't.
First Amendment right.
No, they weren't.
He suspended
Yes, they were.
the Sixth Amendment. The courts literally told these defendants that the Sixth Amendment was suspended due to
C-19. They were jailed for years without due process.
Casey, did you go to jail for years without due process?
Shut the fuck up. I've sat up here and listened to your bullshit. Now it's your turn to be polite and let me have my say. Out of the 1,500 people, there is actively 36 that did not get immediately pardoned because they took part in assaulting police officers. They are actively looking at them at a case-by-case basis. So do not sit there and tell me that you're actively accusing all 1,500 people that were arrested without due process for the majority of them, and that they're all guilty of beating up cops.
That's never what I said.
They're not.
If you'd been listening for
clearly
45 minutes,
say that. Mean to say that.
If you have been listening, hold on.
How many people were there that didn't do anything like that?
He was talking to me. Let me respond. You've been.
No, I'm just saying there's a lot of people that were there that didn't do anything like that. And you're
right.
generalizing that everybody that was there as police fears.
No, bullshit.
My parents were there.
Great.
I'm sick and tired of you lefties doing that.
Long Duck, Approach, and SK. How many times today have I said, numerous times I've said this, those who were there peacefully, that walked into the building, whatever, they should be. Let me finish my sentence. They can be pardoned. I don't give a shit about them. They didn't do anything wrong, in my opinion. I have stated from the beginning, only those who beat the shit out of cops should be held to account.
Beat the shit out of cops,
I heard
that
it.
happened 4
I heard
years
when
ago.
you said it.
So how long did they stay in prison before they were pardoned?
I don't know.
have a question,
One
because
guy
on
that
January 19th of 2017,
Great.
cops, the people that assaulted officers got 6 months.
One guy that tased a cop in his neck only did a year. That's enough for you?
That's double the time that they did for January 20th, 2017.
Okay.
So next time it happens,
beat the shit out of cops, right?
keep this energy.
Cops and beat the shit out of them with batons.
All right.
And
You know what? Hold on.
Next time this happens,
Hold on, you guys.
y'all keep the same energy.
Gabe and
Nobody's saying
James.
it's okay, but what we're saying is you guys need to hold the same energy. You need to hold the same energy for the people that were burning down buildings and assaulting officers. You need to hold the same energy for those people that took over a federal building in Seattle.
And they do. Hold on. They do.
You offended those people?
But once again, Gabe and James, I expressed to you guys earlier that under the circumstance, when you look around you and you see kids, women, elderly women, having, snot come out of their nose because of the gas, and then you see rubber bullets. When you see everything that these people saw, like I said, most people said they'd never seen anything like this. Okay,
that's not how it happened.
Well, look, you're saying that's not how it happened.
They should have stayed home, Pop.
Hold on. We are going to get more answers here, gentlemen. Okay, and once again, maybe you guys wouldn't have done that, but us men, if we saw that happening around us, we might do a little. I'm not being careful. We might do something a little out of.
And you
that's
need
right.
to be.
That's right. I'm not being careful.
Can I say something?
So you're talking about the fact
because I wanted to say something just like super quick. I just want to say, SK, like what you did there, like I haven't talked to you before about J6 before. I think I've only done the other with you.
It's been
And
it's been a long time. I mean, we haven't been able to talk about it, and I've kind of tried to figure out how to be able to talk about it in a way that won't get us taken down, and trying to figure out which trigger, which words are not okay, because people need to hear these things, and as soon as you start talking about this, they take it down.
Well, so what I want to say real quick, and then I know Stacy, you wanted to say something, but the way you put that was so awesome. I didn't ever. I'm not MAGA at all, and you'll all know that. And a lot of y'all know I didn't vote for Trump the first time. I voted for him the second time and this time. And the way that you put that, I knew when I watched everything went on, and then even before I didn't come on to TikTok until last July. I didn't ever believe it. There was just something inside of me that didn't believe that what they were telling. Because I just didn't trust it. I'm not a big sea theorist person. I believe that they explain away theories for a reason. But anyways, thank you for putting it that way. I appreciate that. You can go ahead, Stacey. That's all I want to say.
I'm surprised we got this.
So,
The other thing
SK,
I was going to say is that on top of everything, the men seeing this happen to women and children, you also have to take consideration that C-19 stuff had just been going on for an entire year as well. So people are ready to go. Like, not saying that it's right, but they've been basically contained in their homes.
yeah, so they beat the shit out of police.
Stacy,
Nobody's justifying
now
that.
you're generalizing
Again.
The two buses that I chartered and took, I had people that ranged in age from 18 to 76. And they all say, even the one that went to prison, they would do it again for their president and to represent their country. Now, I will say this, where I told you I started on the back of the building, which was the side towards the Supreme Court, and we just kept hearing this like louder noise and louder noise. It kept getting louder and louder. The police had already taken all of that bike rail fencing down out back, and everybody was walking towards, to get up there and get pictures. People were going in, they were opening up the doors, whatever. But I couldn't understand all the noise out front. That's why me and the 5 others had walked around front. And then it was just like this sea of people that I had never seen before in my life. I mean, it was like New Year's Eve in Times Square, like on steroids. It was absolutely unreal. And it was fascinating to see all that. And yes, there were a few bad people in the crowd that we've learned now, and maybe those people that we saw changing their clothes that morning were part of that operative, that were there. I have no idea who they were, but I lost my train of thought. But the whole purpose of that day, I don't think that anybody, I know the people that I took up there, there was no ill intentions. Nobody in their wildest dreams thought that they were going to be able to just walk into the Capitol. That was like not on our radar at all. We were just there to hold the rally it was all over the news. Everybody knew it was going to happen. You could either go watch Trump, you could go down to the, some of the other plazas or whatever. Nobody went there with the intentions of breaking into the Capitol. So like I said, when Pence came in at 12:51, all of the snipers came down, and all of the police, once he got inside, that's when they took all the barricades down. And so everybody started to walk up, take their pictures. We were walking around front, and it was just like such a surreal moment that unless you were there, you just can't understand it. Honestly. And I really believe that these people that are arguing about it and don't understand, and they're just trying to paint it and to look so bad, the CNNs, the MSNBCs, and all these other stations, they only put out there what they want you to see. So if I walked around front, we'll say at like 1:15, 1:20, and there's already that many people that had came up from Trump's speech as he was finishing his speech, and we got up to the top at maybe like 1:45, because mind you, it took a long time because there's so many people trying to get up the stairs at one time. And all of these police are motioning for people to come in. It was just I never saw, and they say these, and I'm not saying it didn't happen. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm a sea theorist in a lot of things, but so I'm not saying that it didn't happen. But I was up there until 15 after 5, so at least for 4 hours that I stood up on the very top at the balcony where the president and the Congress and everybody sits, and then the one layer on top where that flag was. I never one time saw an ambulance anywhere, and I never one time heard ambulance sirens. So for these people that supposedly died inside, I'm not saying that it didn't happen, because obviously there are reports that some people, whatever. But my question is, how did they get outside? And if they're being rushed to the hospital to try to save their life, would you not see the ambulance? I mean, when you're standing that high off of the ground and you've got a full view clear to the Washington Mall, there's not an ambulance in sight. So people were saying there were ambulances everywhere, and they were taking out people on stretchers. I don't know if you guys have heard that in the past, but I never witnessed any of that.
Yeah. So the reports are that police were opening those doors because they were tired of getting the shit beat out of them, and they were trying to make it more orderly.
I never saw one person lay a hand on a police officer.
Okay, wait,
Stacey, that's great. We have eyes.
Wait. Is your argument really going to be that these officers that are trained for circumstances like this are just going to be like, you know what?
They were very overwhelmed.
Because these
SK,
people are out of control and we're tired of getting beat up. So just open the fucking
SK,
door.
you know as I do that they were very overwhelmed. But let's look at this. Will you put me on the big screen?
At the top of that, where that flag was, there was probably at least.
Will you throw me on the big screen?
There was probably at least 40 Capitol police officers that were holding the doors open for people. Not one person said anything negative to those police officers. And quite honestly, I was one of them, and they said, thank you for your service.
And
I
Stacey,
never saw one person lay a hand on a police officer.
I have a question.
Anywhere.
Since you had a really good bird's eye view of this, right? When there was a line of people going in, were they rushing? Were they walking slowly?
No, they were just walking like you'd be walking through the mall. Like walking through the mall shopping. I mean, and they were just waiting their turn to get in. I mean, because the police officer, they opened the doors and they were, you know how like if you hold your hand up like you're like at a corral, you're like, come on, you're just rolling like, which I can't do the hand gesture because you can't see me, but you just roll your arm like motioning.
You mean like when you're directing traffic?
People weren't rushing.
James,
they weren't stampeding
it's
over.
hopeless, brother.
They had water bottles
but the whole
inside
idea,
the building.
You guys have been saying that the Summer of Love, all those buildings that were burned down, like nobody's been held responsible.
No one has been saying that.
Yes, they have been.
I didn't. I didn't say a word. Okay, then don't say you guys.
Well,
say them. They. The liberals that I've spoken with previously.
What? I think you're misunderstanding me, Gabe. What I'm talking to Approach and SK and everybody.
I was talking to Approach.
And those in the comments that said the Summer of Love.
Either.
Oh.
That all these fires, all these things that happened and nobody was held accountable, blah, blah, blah. Yes, they were. Literally all of them. Here's a list of 17 arsonists.
I say it all the time.
Yeah, but we can also look into the fact that the Democrats raised money.
Should they be pardoned?
17?
Should they be pardoned?
Wow.
Yeah, hold on. Hold on.
I saw a whole lot more than 17.
No. Did you hear what I said? I said arsonists. These are the people who started the fires, SK.
So wait, was there money raised?
Oh, okay. You think there was only 17?
To bail these people out,
and which city was this?
And who raised that money?
Look, there's one city. There's two cities in Minnesota. There's another city in Minnesota.
So this is 17 spread across the whole United States?
That started the fires,
that's
yes.
Believable.
That started the fires,
that's
yes.
believable.
What's unbelievable?
Only 17 people started all those fires across the country?
Yeah, right.
Did I claim that every single person that did it was arrested?
James, also, that's really not... Like, that's not even a good comparison.
It's almost like every single person that was at the Capitol wasn't assaulting officers. And the ones that were spent time in prison, you said one of them spent a year? only spent a year. That's twice the time that they spent for assaulting an officer on January 20th, 2017.
You
So
see,
again,
James?
it's the
You see?
hypocrisy for
This is
me.
a lost cause.
So Eastman was correct. It
Yes.
wasn't actually them that did the violence.
Yes.
There were operatives planted in the crowd.
Right.
There's
Alright.
just
Alright.
every
I gotta-
possible
I gotta-
explanation
No
that can be
I gotta
offered.
say this again.
Yes.
Okay, so the type of gas that was used, Gabe. Okay, now they put people in military through this exercise where they'll make them put on their masks and so on. It was the same type, right? And what this will do to you is all of a sudden your mucus will start flowing out of your body, right? Like this type of gas. It was the same type that they put Marines through. Okay, and so it's not a pretty sight when people go through this, right? Like I haven't had to go through it myself, but I've had it explained to me, and I could just imagine watching innocent people go through that around me, and how furious I would be from seeing that, especially after they were singing and praying, like everything that was going on. Just like the lady said, about we just had gone through a pandemic, and there was a lot going on. Now, once again, like, is there an excuse? No, but sometimes us men, we lose it when we see stuff like this. This is, when it comes to women and children, like, you better believe it. We'll lose it.
Women and children weren't gassed on January 6th. Stop it. That did not happen. Like, do you know when women were gassed?
You
Under the
just
Trump
heard
administration?
Stacey Joe tell you she was wearing
It's
glasses
bullshit.
and she had men helping her get the tear gas out of her eyeballs.
Yeah, guys.
It's bullshit. If
Oh,
you
it's
were,
bullshit. Yeah,
It's
it's bullshit,
bullshit.
James.
You're telling
Bullshit.
somebody who was there and experienced
Absolutely.
it that it's bullshit.
James, are you saying that didn't happen to me? Were
what
you
I'm
there
saying,
to
what
see
I'm
me?
saying, no, what I'm saying is, what didn't happen is you guys were not in the buildings, but away from the buildings, just singing fucking Kumbaya, and the police decided, you know what? Let's go after them and shoot gas and bullets.
Yeah,
or
didn't
rubber.
they show it on the documentary?
No.
There were people. This is when I was walking from around back out front, when I got to the corner of the building out front, and all you could see was
Out front of what?
everybody red, white, and blue. And the people on the upper stage were dropping and throwing that tear
Yeah.
gas, bomb, flashbangs, whatever you want to call it. And you would see this puff yellow of smoke, and then there was no way to get out of it. Because
At the buildings, right? At the buildings?
no, they
No.
were standing on top, dropping it to the people in the crowd below.
That were going into the buildings, yeah?
No.
We were standing on the ground, on the grass.
Out front of the building, yeah?
Yes,
Yes.
out front.
Yes,
These
the
people
building
were
that
on
they
the
are
platform,
protecting.
throwing
Not
it
on the
down
buildings.
into the crowd.
Not
Right.
on the building, James. They weren't climbing the walls, bro.
No, they weren't climbing the walls or anything, right? It's almost like it was chaotic because there's thousands
like
of
you don't
people
understand.
who are
So-
climbing.
So you
fucking-
guys, once
You
again,
know you gotta wait
once again,
until they
I'm gonna
rip
ask
the
you
roof off
gentlemen
of
again.
the thing.
Hold on. Are you saying that you truly believe, even after you have eyewitnesses here and people who experienced themselves, that there were no women and children in that crowd where that yellow puff of smoke was at?
Sure, there's women, and if you brought your child to that, you're an idiot.
Like, why were there children?
Oh,
If
you
you
mean a
brought your
place?
child to that,
children,
you're
You
an
mean a
idiot.
Why were there
place?
children?
You mean a place where people are singing and praying? Like, yeah. Come on.
Approach.
No, I mean the
I
nation's
found
capital
one
on a
where
weekday to
99%
protest
of
an
us would
election
feel
that's
safe.
over.
Thank
There-
you.
My
There
That's what I'm
were-
daughter
talking
was
about.
17 years old, and she was with me.
Okay, so but that's not a child.
No,
Like,
there
I
were.
mean,
there
technically,
were smaller
yeah,
children
but
there. I mean, there were younger
Mm.
teenagers.
okay, but why?
Yes.
Why were there elementary school
A
children there?
17-year-old female?
Approach.
Lord.
Let me ask you this. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So when Trump was president, right, and there was that peaceful protest outside of that church, right? And what did Donald Trump do
Outside
to
of
those?
that church
Hold
or
on.
outside of Lafayette Square? Did you read the investigation into Lafayette Square, James?
Yes, I have. I can't even finish a sentence in this room.
Okay, just making sure that you have all the
Yes.
information.
Yes. So
I feel like I
these
need to go
people-
get my computer charger because I know my computer's dead.
grab it. Let's do it. Okay, my wife won't be home for another 30 minutes. I've got time.
What are we looking up?
So during that Lafayette Square fiasco, right? You had peaceful protesters who were sitting down crisscross applesauce, sitting down, and the police.
You said you read that report, James, because the things you're saying are absolutely false.
Should I bring up the video, SK?
Oh, you can bring up the video,
Okay.
but you can also know that all of this was pre-planned.
Let me bring up the video.
Yeah, and then like the damages to the building or the stuff around it, and
now you care about damages to buildings?
No. Once again, dude, wait a second.
When it's for a small business.
Yeah, hold on. Did those people go to jail, James?
Sorry, I missed my wife call. What'd you say?
Did those people go to jail?
Who?
Both.
Both of who?
Hold on. Before we go any further, do you think that square was cleared for Donald Trump to make an appearance?
Do I think it was cleared for him to make an appearance? I don't know.
Protesters were cleared so that Donald Trump could make an appearance at the church and hold the Bible upside down.
No.
That was in front of the White House that they cleared the square.
We're talking about Lafayette Square Park, where the church is.
Yeah, the church in Minnesota, but that's not where they cleared the square.
The church in D.C.
In D.C. They're talking about, she's talking about the Lafayette Square in D.C. during that protest where I'm going to bring up a video where they're literally sitting down crisscross applesauce and the police start tear gassing them and assaulting them without them doing anything provocative towards the police. And then it breaks out.
Look at SK's face.
I know. Well, this is so funny. This is what's so funny to me.
Would never do that, James.
Never.
This is what's so funny to me.
Never say that. Weird.
I know. This is what's so funny to me. This is where you guys don't hold the same energy.
I'm sorry, none of this is funny.
I know, because you guys don't hold the same energy, and that's what's crazy.
The same
Donald
energy.
Trump literally directed his SecDef to fire live rounds at the protesters.
Oh my God! You didn't read the report at all whatsoever.
Wait a minute. NBC News reports DOJ reaches settlement in 2020 cases involving Lafayette Square protesters. As part of the settlement, the Park Police and the Secret Service agreed to revise their policies about demonstrations.
Yeah, again, do you think that...
Why would they do that? Why would they need to revise their policies?
Do you think that the square was cleared for Donald Trump to make an appearance?
Why would they need to revise their policies?
You're gonna have to show me. I have the whole report right here. You're gonna have to show me what part of what happened. I don't read news sources. So you're gonna have to tell me.
Okay, this is a report on the settlement. I'm not trying to dispute the facts of the report of the event. I'm just telling you that the government settled.
I know what the final report on Lafayette Square.
By whom? Who wrote this report?
I know that the Justice Department has reached a settlement in 4 cases stemming from law enforcement's response to racial justice demonstrations in Lafayette Square. That's what it says.
When did that happen?
What report?
This is an article published about the settlement, published April 13th, 2022.
And Gabe, when you get a chance,
so that's the answer I needed.
Just for future reference.
So the answer to who wrote the report is the Office of Inspector General, the U.S. Department of the Interior, James.
Yeah, and something you guys have to do, and not maybe you guys, but to anybody who's listening, who's a Democrat, Republican, or whatever, when you see these opinion pieces by a lot of these news organizations these days, read the article to its entirety. And then you have to really examine and dissect the way that these writers write down, the account of what happened, or they're very tricky these days. Like they'll write it in such a way where it almost sounds like that's what they're saying, or they'll wait to the end of the article to basically say, oh, well, that's not true, actually. It's like, they're really tricky these days. It's crazy.
Okay, so I want SK to fact check me since she's got the report, because further down it states the settlement follows a report last year by the Interior Department's Inspector General Mark Greenblatt, who conducted the review after a largely peaceful demonstration turned violent after police moved in. His report concluded that federal officers cleared protesters from the square in consultation with William Barr to let a contractor install fencing.
Why? Why were they installing fencing, Gabe?
I'm assuming security concerns.
Oh, why would there have been security concerns? It's because on May 30th and May
Let's-
31st, there
Let's
were.
stick to the square.
This is the square.
Yeah, and all we're trying to say is they cleared the square, and I'm telling you about the government settling about their overreach. They're settling because they overstepped and cleared the square when they should not have.
Yeah, but you're going to admit out loud it had nothing to do with Donald Trump.
It does say that. It states that they cleared the square so they could erect a fence, not for a photo op.
There you go. And
Yeah,
the
but
narrative
that wasn't my
this whole entire
contention.
time, even in the media, was always that they did these horrible things so that Donald Trump could go to the church and take a picture with an upside down
Maybe
Bible.
you're
if he could have
conflating so many
restrained
things.
himself. If he could have restrained himself from jumping in there to get the photo op, the optics may have been a bit better.
What? There was a planned appearance. What are you talking about? He was going to
Seriously?
survey the damage. He was going
He
to
was
survey the
scheduled
damage
to
at the
be
church.
there.
It was a planned appearance.
Right, with General Milley
Never.
with him, right? That makes a whole lot of sense.
Whatever.
That has never in the history of the U.S. politics ever happened. General Milley has stated numerous times how one of his biggest regrets is following Trump's order to go with him to Lafayette Square.
When has Trump
for that
been a
photo op.
traditional politician?
Never. But here's the thing, SK. Nobody was saying that. I wasn't saying that Trump had anything to do with that clearing the square. Nothing. My whole point was this: they were peaceful protesters who got cleared out using gas and force when they weren't doing anything. They were sitting there peacefully.
They weren't doing anything, James.
Correct,
This
SK.
is-
Nothing.
All right. This is why we do this.
What were they doing, SK? Before the police started beating the shit out of them. What were they doing? Were they taking flagpoles and beating the shit out of cops? Were they taking tasers from cops and getting them in the neck?
Hold on, you're gonna have to hold on a minute. I got background noise.
How's everyone's day? Pretty good?
Really?
Nice to see you, brother.
Yeah, good to see you too.
DDL, I am hangry. You're not wrong.
I've been eating a chicken sandwich this whole time. Delicious.
So my wife's friend.
What's your
Oh, go ahead.
Gabe,
Popeyes
what's your
or
progress
Chick-fil-A?
there, sir?
That was weird. Two people spoke at once. I couldn't pick that up at all.
Go ahead. You go first. I'll wait.
I'm working on it, Slanted. I'm working on it.
I meant
I'll be
the
in
other
touch.
guy. Go ahead, because I don't want you to complain.
No. Long duck dong. It's on you, buddy.
Go ahead, Gabe.
No, he's tied up. You're good. Or we could just sit here in silence if you guys want to.
No, what I was going to say.
What were you asking? I thought you were asking me something, Slanted.
Yeah, I was asking how your progress is going.
It's going. I'll be in touch. I hadn't forgot what you told me.
Okay. Well, if you need any help, you let me know.
Who just left?
I think Amelia's there.
Amelia's here. The lady whose parents were there that day.
Oh, Stacy's here. Oh, that was Tara.
Yeah. I meant to go.
Amelia, are you eating something?
Yep.
What are you eating?
Spaghetti.
Good old American spaghetti.
Mm-hmm.
My wife's friend, she just came back from a Cuba trip, and then she went to L.A., and there's this Cuban restaurant in L.A. that serves these. It's like a mashed potato ball. On the inside, there's meat, and then it's like kind of fried. It is one of the best tasting things I've ever had in my life.
Which one is it? So there's a couple Cuban places in LA. I'm brain farting the name real quick.
Okay.
It's delicious
Okay.
though.
I have a second. Wait, if it's loud. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
Kay.
Okay. So again, the peaceful protesters. How many officers did they
Spook got it.
injure?
Good job, Spook. Thank you.
How many officers were injured in
When?
this peaceful protest where they were sitting crisscross applesauce?
Yeah. I don't know how many.
Yeah, like 50.
Right. As Apprentice said, right? Or Approach, rather. As Approach said, once the police start attacking you, what are you going to do?
No.
Then
This was
are
3
going to attack.
days. This was
Don't
3
took
days.
over, bro.
This was 3 days of violence, buddy.
3 days? Good lord.
When did you say 50?
Yeah, actually, I think it was more than that.
Well. Ruh-roh.
Yeah, 49 USPP officers were injured during the protests from May 29th to May 31st, including one who underwent surgery for his injuries.
Who did that?
The protesters, they were throwing bricks at the police officers and projectiles. It would be mostly peaceful throughout the day, and then as the evening started to come, they would get out of control and they would throw bricks at police officers and assault police officers. That's why they were having to put up all of that fencing.
Right. But we don't care if police officers get hurt, right? They should be.
James, stop
Maybe
it.
if we
Stop.
said we didn't care about police officers
Stop.
getting hurt, James.
James,
should be
stop,
pardoned.
stop
were
saying that.
look,
James, stop
James.
it.
I'm just
Good
saying,
Lord.
guys. Look, the people there were impassioned.
Wow, people.
James, we all care about police officers. We're not those people who are saying defund the police. We're not. We're not those people here. Okay?
I know. It's just the people were riled up, and there were some agitators, and things got out of hand. And they shouldn't face consequence for what they did. I get it, and that's fine.
Heard that. Wish I didn't, but I heard that.